just a very brief, very brief about the session. The session, this is the first in the series of session that we are doing. The purpose of the session is to discuss important questions from the MCQs of the Fundabook. Okay, so the purpose of the session, just to repeat. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, the purpose of the session is to discuss important questions from Fundabooks, and we'll be looking only at MCQs. Okay, so we will be going to the question of each of the exercises. There will be questions which I think are important. I will be discussing those. The questions which I don't think are important, obviously I'll not be discussing them at all. The focus will be on the questions which I think are important. They're important because they will clear some concepts for you. Okay? They will possibly give you a calculation methodology, help you in the calculation part. Calculation. Or they will help you work with the choices. So the purpose here is not concept as much as the usage of choices, calculation shortcut, and the new method or something to some extent, the concept per se. So there are 3 or 4 things that we'll be looking at as far as this session is concerned. The session will be available on your SIS, the recorded version. After editing will be available, so that the edited version will be a little more to the point. Okay, so that version will be available to you. It might take a days for it to be available. Okay, so that is very. Exercise at the end of the book. The focus is to look at questions with clearer concepts, which help you in the calculation aspects, or which will help you work with the choices. Now these 50, 60, 70 questions are the ones from which I think are important, which will help you in one way or the other, and hence the purpose is to discuss them. And yes, as some of you have been asking, a lot of voice not clear. Okay, just hold on. Let me just check up. Just hold on. Down. Okay. The CL host, I hope if you can confirm it to me. Okay. Okay. Things seem to be in place now. So we'll be starting. Just to repeat, the session will be available on your SIS. Okay, the session will be, it is clear better now. Okay, great. So the session will be available on your SIS, and it will take us a couple of days to get it in sync with the requirements, and then it will be available to all of you. Okay. So quickly we will move on to the session. I have already wasted about 15-20 minutes. Okay, so we'll quickly move on to the session. Okay. The first exercise is what we'll start with. Okay. The first question number 17 of practice exercise 1. Okay. If the numerator of a fraction is increased by 25%, the numerator of a fraction is found in the background. Let me just check if others are also getting anything now. Okay. Okay, things seem to be fine now, so we'll not spend too much time. Okay. Numerator of a fraction is increased by 25% and the denominator decreased by 20%. The new value is 5 by 4. What is the original value? So the traditional way of doing this question is, if the original fraction is x upon y, the new fraction would be numerator increased by 25%, so it becomes 1.25x, and the denominator decreased by 20%, it becomes 0.8x. And we say this is equal to 5 by 4. This is the standard way of doing the question. Not a difficult process. 0.8y. Not a difficult process. I'm sure everyone can do it very, very comfortably. But a slightly different way of looking at this question could be, instead of writing it like this, I could have written as the new fraction. The numerator becomes 25% more, so it becomes 5 by 4 times of the original fraction. And the denominator becomes 20% less, so it should be 4 by 5 times. Or in other words, x should be a multiple of 4 and y should be a multiple of 5. Okay. So the moment you look at increase by 25%, that means it has become 5 by 4 times, so the numerator must be a multiple of 4. And any choice which does not have a numerator which is a multiple of 4 has to be incorrect. And this is the only one. Similar thing you could have done. The denominator decreased by 20%, that it became 4 by 5 times. If it has become 4 by 5 times, that means the denominator should be a multiple of 5. Again, out here, okay, there are two choices, but there is the only one which satisfies both sides. So for such questions, it is always useful if you look at the numerator and denominator and say what is the change. 25% means it becomes 5 by 4 times. That means the numerator should be a multiple of 4. Similarly, the denominator should be a multiple of 5. Okay. Another thing is you could just check the choices in such questions. In such questions, you could just check the choice. Numerator, a fraction increased by 25%, numerator, and denominator decreased by 20%. So if I increase this by 25%, this fraction numerator, 25% is 1/4, this will become 3.75 upon 4. Okay. So this choice A, as per the question, had choice A been correct, then the answer would have been 3.75 upon 4. So choice A is incorrect. Similarly, if you look at the other choices, you could have checked out the choices straight away. For example, choice B, 1/4 or 25% of 5 is 1.25. So this would have been 6.25 upon 4.8. Decreased by 20% would have made it 3.27. Okay. So this would again be incorrect. This choice, numerator increased by 25% would become 4 plus 1, 5. Denominator decreased by 20% becomes 4. This matches with the fraction given, hence this is the correct answer. So such question, either you could have done straight, you could have started working with the choice, or alternate method would have been, you start purely perform the numerator and say, okay, numerator has become 5 by 4 times, so original numerator should be a multiple of 4. Any choice with the numerator not a multiple of 4 has to be incorrect. Okay, next question. Raman's salary, question number 19. Raman's salary was decreased by 50% and subsequently increased by 50%. What is the loss? Okay. Such questions you should start working on the base of 100. If the original salary is 100, a reduction of 50% would have got it to 50 rupees, and an increase of 50% brings it to 75. So 100 becomes 75. It is nothing but a loss of 25%. Okay. So it is a loss of 25%. Alternatively, this could also have been done using the formula for successive changes. A plus B plus AB by 100. These are two successive changes of plus 50%, sorry, minus 50% and plus 50% which are happening. So in this question, A is equal to 50 and B is equal to minus 50. So plus 50 minus 50 minus 50 into 50 by 100, which is nothing but minus 25. So this is effectively nothing but successive increment. Okay. Or you work on a base of 100 and solve the question accordingly. Simple question. Just remember, whenever you have such questions, look at working on a base of 100. Okay. Again, this is a question which on the face of it might look calculation intensive, but if you look at the choices carefully, then it is not going to be an issue. The question says 37% of a number is equal to 990.86. What is 19% of the number? Now half of 37 is 18.5, so 18.5% of the number should be 495.43. Okay. We need to find 19%. 19% of it should be greater than 495, but not by a big margin. So among the choices, the only choice which will make sense is 500. So the issue with this question is that you should be willing to approximate. This is a question where you have to be willing to approximate rather than go for the complete calculation. Approximation was the key thing as far as this question is concerned. Which also means, from your point of view, approximation has to be done keeping the choices in mind. So you approximate when the choices are not close to each other. Choices are far, you approximate. If the choices are very close, you do not approximate. Okay, let's go to the next question. 20% of a number exceeds 16% of the same number by 16 modular number. Another simple question, but the calculation part is where people waste time. Typically, we let the number be x. So 20% of the number will be 20x upon 100. Exceed 16% of the number 16x upon 100 is equal to 60. Okay. Not a difficult calculation. You would have straight away said 20% minus 16% of the same number will be nothing but 4%. So 4% of the number is equal to 16. Or 100% is nothing but 4 into 25 is 100 should be equal to 16 into 25. Okay. Many times I have seen students doing this complete calculation. There is a waste of time. 20% minus 16% is 4%, and 4% is 16. 100% is how much is the question? 4 into 25 is 100, so 16 into 25 should be the answer for you. Okay. And how much is 16 into 25? 25 into 10 is 250. 25 into 6 is 150. 400. Whenever you have to calculate, it is always advantageous that you break the number into smaller components and then you calculate. Okay. As we just did out here, 25 into 16 is nothing but 25 into 10 plus 25 into 6. Okay. In order to increase the sale, price of a product was decreased by 20%. Total revenue increased by 28%. What is the percentage increase in the number of units sold? Increase in sale, price of the product was decreased. So the first thing which we need to understand that price into quantity is nothing but revenue. Okay. Price into quantity is revenue. Okay. Whenever you have this format of A into B equal to C, you can apply the successive increment or successive change formula out here. Okay. Which means if the percentage change in price is A%, percentage change in quantity is B%, the percentage change in revenue should be A plus B plus AB by 100. Okay. Out here, to increase sales, price of product was increased by 20%, was decreased by 20%, so this is minus 20%. Okay. Revenue increased by 28%, this becomes plus 28%. What happened to this? So you could apply this formula to get the answer. This is one way of doing the question. Okay. Another simple method for this is assume that the price and quantity are certain numbers and what the revenue happens to be. Okay. So let me assume that the price is 10 since it is okay, and quantity is 10. So when the price was 10 rupees, 10 pieces were sold, and hence the revenue was nothing but 100. As per the question, the price decreased by 20%. So price became 8. The new quantity I do not know, so let me retain it as B. So 8 into B should be equal to 128. Okay. So what is the new value of B? New value of B will be equal to 128 upon 8, which is equal to 16. So what is the increase? Earlier the value of the quantity was 10, now it is 16, so it is an increase of 60%. Okay. So it is an increase of 60%. So there is a second way of doing this question. So when we are looking at these questions, the two methods that we have in front of us right now are: one, assume the values to be 10 and 10 of the price and quantity, and then the revenue is 100, and then make the corresponding adjustments and take out what happens to the item which has not changed. Alternately, you could apply the successive increment formula. Successive increment formula you could have applied by remembering that price is gone down by 20%, so the formula could have been applied. Let me just clean this up. Yeah. So it would have been applying the successive increment formula: minus 20 plus B is equal to plus 28, which is A plus B plus, A plus B plus AB by 100. AB is minus 20 into B by 100 is equal to 28. Now applying this formula you can solve it. Okay. There's a third thing which could have been done, which we will do a little later, which will be essentially in the form of ratios. Or let's do it now itself. Let's not waste too much time. Okay. Let me just clean this thing, and so that I get some space. So we have here that price into quantity is equal to revenue. Price decreased by 20%, so price has become 8 by 10 times. Quantity change I do not know, which is what I need to find. What happened to the revenue? Revenue has become 128%, or has become 12.8, or 128 by 100 times. Okay. This again would have given you the answer. Interesting thing in this question would be, most of the time you will find there will be many questions which will say that the price and quantity price changes, the quantity changes, but the revenue does not change. So if I say the revenue does not change, there is no change in revenue, that means the price becomes 2 times, the quantity should become half. If the price becomes 3 by 2 times, the quantity should become 2 by 3. This is if there is no change in revenue, because the revenue is constant. So if A into B is constant, then whatever happens to A, B should be the reciprocal of that. So if A becomes 7 by 8 times, B should become 8 by 7 times. Okay. So there is a third thing which you need to remember with respect to this question. Okay. So going on to practice exercise 2. The first question. Salaries of A and B together amount to rupees 2,000. A spent 95% of his salary, B spent 85% of his salary. If the savings are the same, what is A's salary? So again, let's look at how we would do in a normal situation. Okay. A and B together spent 2,000 rupees. So the salary of A and salary of B, then the sum of the salaries A plus B is nothing but 2,000. A spent 95% of his salary and B spent 85% of the salary. So the saving, so expenditure is for A it is 0.95 A, 95%, and expenditure for B is 0.85 times the salary or 85% of the salary. Okay. So what will be the savings? Savings of A will be 5% of his salary, and savings of B will be 15% of the salary. So savings are A, since A is spending 95% of his salary, he is saving 5% of his salary. Or in other words, the question says the savings of both of them are same. That means 5% of A is equal to 15% of B. Or in other words, salary of A should be 3 times that of B. You can also look at it this way: A upon B and is equal to 3 upon 1. Okay. So while mathematically this is the way it is to be done, when you read the question, you should be able to connect that directly. That 5% of A is equal to 15% of B, and the ratio of salaries is 3:1. So salary of A should be 1/3/4, and salary of B should be 1/4. Issue. Yeah, I'm having problems. Let me just see if I can do something about the mic. Just give me a minute, please. Okay, I'm just switching off the mic for a couple of minutes to check my system. Okay, she had done some change in the settings. I hope this is better this time. Now it is audible. Great, thank you very much. It seems I finally resolved the issue. Okay, so great, thank you. Okay, let's get back to the session. I'll take 1 minute more to set up. Just confirming once again from everyone, yes, it is fine now. Okay. In an election involving two candidates, 68 votes were declared invalid. Winning candidate got 52%. The winning candidate got 52% of the valid votes and won by 98 votes. Okay. What was the total number of votes polled? I am sure this question is not an issue for anyone. The winning candidate gets 52% of the votes. Okay. The losing candidate gets 48% of the votes. Or in other words, the difference between the two of them is 4% of the valid votes, which is nothing but 98. Again, 4% is 98, so 100% should be equal to 98 into 25. 98 into 25, again, if you have to multiply, it is nothing but 25 into 100 minus 25 into 2. Because 98 is nothing but 100 minus 2. So it is 2500 minus 2, 2450. Okay. 2450. And it's okay, so okay, not able to understand. Let me just repeat this part. The winning candidate gets 52% of the valid votes. In other words, the losing candidate, because there are only two candidates, the losing candidate got 48% of the votes. Or the difference between the two of them is 4% of the valid votes. Valid votes. Now this 4% of valid votes is equal to 98. Since the winning candidate got won by 98 votes, that means he got 98 votes more than the losing candidate. So 4% of valid votes is 98, or 100% of valid votes is equal to 98 into 25, which is nothing but 2450. Now this is where mistakes happen. Many students many a times would mark this as the answer, which is incorrect. Because the question is not what is the total number of valid votes, it is the total number of votes. The total number of votes are nothing but 2450 plus the 68 invalid votes, so plus 68 should be the answer. So the answer should be 2450 plus 68, which is 2518. There is a very common error, and these kind of errors happen very frequently in the papers. So my request to all of you would be that you need to be a little careful. Look at what is the question asking for, and make sure you don't commit a. This is what I call an unforced error or a silly mistake, and this is what has to be avoided. A simple question should definitely get wrong, but a number of times I've seen people marking the answer as B instead of D. The correct answer is 2518. Many students incorrectly mark the answer as 2450 because they calculate 2450, did not know that the question was the total number of votes, not the total number of valid votes. Total number of valid votes is 2450. This is valid votes, but the answer is total number of votes, which is this much. Okay. So how did we get 4%? How can you do this? Okay. Abhay is asking us how did we get 4%? The winning candidate got 52% of the votes. 52% of valid votes for the winner. So since there are only two candidates, that means the loser, the person who lost, would have got the remaining or the 48% of valid votes. Or the difference between the two is 4% of valid votes. 4% of valid votes, since the winning candidate got won by 98 votes, that means he got 98 votes more than the losing candidate. So 4% of valid votes is equal to 98. Okay, I hope that cleared it for you. Okay. Can we solve if the percentage of invalid votes is given? Can we solve if the percentage of invalid votes is given? Yes, I think we can solve. If it says the number of or the percentage of invalid, for example, had it said that the percentage of invalid votes is 2%, that means 2450 would be equal to 98%. Okay. So yes, it can be solved even if the percentage of invalid votes is given. Next question, question number 6. Price of oil increased by 25%. Okay. Expenditure is not allowed to increase. The ratio between reduction in consumption and regular consumption. Price into quantity is equal to expenditure. Quantity, or in this case you can call consumption. So price into consumption or price into quantity is equal to expenditure. Price of oil increased by 25%. Price becomes 5 by 4 times. Expenditure is not allowed to increase, so there is no change in expenditure. So quantity should become 4 by 5 times. Your consumption should become 4 by 5 times. This is what I explained in a couple of questions ago, that if the expenditure is constant, then whatever the issue with price, the reciprocal of that will happen in quantity. So price increased by 25%, or price becomes 5 by 4 times. Expenditure remains constant, so quantity has to become 4 by 5 times. Okay. So that means if the original consumption was equal to 4, was equal to 5, the new consumption is equal to 4. Okay. The new consumption is 4. The ratio between reduction in consumption, so what is the reduction in consumption? Reduction in consumption is equal to, original was 5, new is 4, reduction is equal to 1 unit. Okay. 1 to regular consumption, 1 is to 5. Okay. So the key thing out here in this question was, just to remember that since the expenditure is constant, if the price becomes 5 by 4 times, quantity will become 4 by 5 times. Quantity becoming 4 by 5 times means if the original consumption is 4, the new consumption is, original consumption is 5, new consumption will be 4. Or the reduction in consumption will be equal to 1. Instead of 5, you are consuming 4 units, so you are reduced it by 1 unit. So the ratio from reduction in consumption to regular consumption is 1:5. But the key thing is this particular relationship. Next question, number 10. 1 liter of water is added to 5 liters of 20% solution of sugar. What is the strength of solution now? A simple method of doing this question would be, in 5 liter solution, 20% sugar, that means there is a 1 liter equivalent of this. Okay. So in 5 liters, 20% 5 sugar implies 1 unit of sugar. Okay. 1 unit of sugar in 5 liters. Okay. If I add 1 more liter, it becomes 6 liters and 1 unit of sugar. So sugar will be 1 by 6. From 1 by 5 it will become 1 by 6, so 16.66%. Okay. But let's look at this question again in the form of ratios. To look at again percentage strength into volume. Okay, let me just write not percentage strength because that can confuse. Okay, so percentage of sugar into volume should be equal to the quantity of sugar. Again, this is of the form of A into B equal to C. So percentage sugar multiplied by the volume of the solution should give me the quantity of sugar. For example, in this question the volume is 5 liters, percentage is 20%, so quantity of sugar is 1. Okay. Now look at this, what is happening out here? To 5 liters I am adding 1 liter of water. So the volume of this mixture from 5 it will become 6, or it will become 6 by 5 times. So the volume of the mixture will become 6 by 5 times. The quantity of sugar will not change because you are not adding sugar, you are adding water. Whatever the original quantity of sugar, the quantity of sugar remains the same. Then the quantity of sugar remains the same, and the volume is becoming 6 by 5 times. That means percentage of sugar should become 5 by 6 times. So what was the original percentage was 20%. The new percentage should be 5 by 6 into 20, which is equal to 16.66%. Just to repeat, since the quantity of sugar in the solution does not change, the quantity of sugar is constant, and the volume is becoming 6 by 5 times. Because the volume is becoming 6 by 5 times, the percentage of sugar should become 5 by 6 times. If the percentage of sugar becomes 5 by 6 times, original percentage was 20%, the new percentage should be 5 by 6 of 20, which is nothing but 16.66%. And again, this is nothing but a simple application of ratios. Okay, how did the volume become 6 by 5 times? Originally there were 5 liters of the mixture. You are adding 1 liter of water. So 5 plus 1 becomes 6. Or original volume was 5 liters. New volume is equal to 5 liters of the original mixture plus 1 liter of water, which is nothing but 6. So the volume of the mixture is becoming 6 by 5 times, and the percentage of sugar should become 0.5 by 6 times. Yeah. Okay, I hope that explains how volume became 6 by 5 times. Okay. Question number 16. a merchant makes a profit of 8% even after giving a discount of 10%. What will be the profit if he sells at market price? A merchant makes a profit of 8%. Such questions start by assuming the cost price. Let the cost price be 100. Why 100? Because it will make the percentage calculation easier. So the assumption is that you start by, or the way to move forward is assume the cost price to be 100. He makes a profit of 8%. 8%. So that means the selling price has to be 108. What will be the profit if he sells at the market price? What is the market price? Market price is the seller gives a discount of 10% on the market price. So market price minus 10% should give you the selling price, which we are obtained from cost price plus 8%, which is nothing but the profit. So this picture is what you need to remember always, that market price minus discount will give you a selling price, similarly cost price plus profit will give you the selling price, and both of them have to be equated. Okay. Now if there is a discount of 10%, that means selling price is nothing but 90% of market price. So this is nothing but 90% of market price, or market price should be equal to 108 upon 0.9, which will give you 120. Okay. So this is the way of doing the question. But this question would have been slightly easier had you used the choices, which means, again I will start similarly. I will start by saying, let the cost price be equal to 100. Since the profit is equal to 8%, that means my selling price should be 108. Selling price should be 108. Secondly, a discount of 10%, it should give me a selling price of 108. Let me assume the correct answer is choice A. If choice A is the correct answer, that means my market price should be 110 because it's a 10% profit. If your market price is 110, 10% discount will be not equal to 108. Hence, this is an incorrect answer. So this question again, you could have started working with the choices also. When I say start working with the choices, the profit is 20%, or sorry, the market price, the profit is 20% by selling at market price. This means the market price should be 120. 120 minus 10% would be 108. This tallies with the selling price, and both of them are equal. Someone is asking for repetition of question 8, I'll just come back to it. Okay. But I hope this is clear. Such question you can always work with from the choices also, especially if you are not very comfortable with dividing and so on and so forth. Otherwise, the relationship which we need to remember, market price minus discount gives you the selling price, and cost price plus profit gives you the selling price, and that is the picture I want you to remember all the time. Okay, how did I get 90%? Let me just go back to it. You have a market price. On the market price, there is a discount of 10% to get the selling price. That means discount of 10% means it is becoming 90%. If you give a discount of 10% on the market price, you will be left with 90% of the market price. Or in other words, you are selling it at 90% of the market price, which is nothing but selling price. So how do I get 90%? Discount is 10%. Supposing the discount was 20%, then the selling price would be 80% of market price. Here the discount is 10%, so 90% of market price is equal to selling price. Quickly going back to the previous question. Percentage of sugar multiplied with volume of the mixture is equal to quantity of sugar. So there is no change in the quantity of sugar. Whatever is the quantity of sugar, it remains, because in 5 liters of 20% sugar solution, you are adding water. So the quantity of sugar in the mixture, even after addition of 1 liter water, will not change. Original volume was 5 liters. Then you add 1 liter of water, so the volume becomes 6 liters, or the volume becomes 6 by 5 times. Original volume was 5 liters, new volume is 6, so volume has become 6 by 5 times. Since the quantity of sugar does not change, the percentage of sugar should become 5 by 6 times. Originally it was 20% sugar. Since the percentage of sugar has to become 5 by 6 times, the percentage of sugar should be 20 into 5 by 6, which is equal to 16.6%. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Question number 18. Okay, there's again someone needs the original solution of the question 16, so I'll quickly go through the solution also. The picture which I said I want you to always remember is mass price minus discount gives you the selling price plus profit to the cost price gives you the selling price. Okay. Assume the cost price, assume cost price should be 100. This implies selling price should be 108 because there is a profit of 8%. Okay. Now, since you are selling at a discount of 10% over the mass price, that means selling price is equal to 90% of mass price. Okay. Selling price is 108 and selling price is 90% of mass price, so 90% of mass price is equal to 108, or mass price is equal to 108 upon 0.9. Which is nothing but 120. So if the mass price is 120 and you sell it at the mass price, since the cost price is 100, you will have a profit of 20%. Okay, now let's move to the next question. These kind of questions typically tend to confuse many of us. But if you look at the choices carefully, you'll always get a starting point. The choices say so much percent of A, so much percentage of A. In all the choices. Or in other words, I need to find what percentage of A. So let's start and try to convert everything with respect to A to get the answer. X% of A is nothing but X A upon 100 is equal to Y% of B. Y% of B will be YB upon 100. So we need to find what is Z% of B. Z% of B will be equal to ZB upon 100. So we need to find what is ZB upon 100. Now when you look at this equation and the choices, Z is available in all the choices, so we will not worry too much about Z. And B is not there in the choices. So we need to replace B with rest of the thing. So this tells us B is equal to, this tells us that B is equal to 100, in any case it cancels on both sides. X A upon Y. Okay. So ZB upon 100 should be equal to Z upon 100, and B is nothing but X A upon Y, which is nothing but Z%, or rather, which is nothing but Z X upon Y into 1 by 100 of A, which is nothing but X Z upon Y percentage of A. The key to this question was in the fact that all the choices are with respect to A. So when you're looking at this equation, you need to look at converting it in terms of A. So this equation you need to convert in terms of A, not in terms of B. Why? Because none of the choices have B within them. Bhagyashree, I will not be solving the question which I have not chosen. Those questions you will have to check with your faculty, or when I do a separate session. Right now this session I have picked up a few questions and I am looking to look at solving only those specific questions. Okay. This question I don't think should be a problem now. Yes, Utsav, if none of the choices have A, then I would not worry about A. In the previous question, just to make it clear again, all the choices have A, choices are X, Y, Z, which means the only redundant item for me is B. So the starting point straight away is that when X A is equal to B Y, convert B in terms of A. The only redundant item is B, so X A Y B Z B. B is the only thing which is not there in the choices, so let us not worry about B. Or rather, let us eliminate B and then solve the question. Okay, price of sugar increased by 20%, the family decreases. I'm sure you'll be able to do it now. Price into consumption should be equal to expenditure. This session I am planning to cover about 70 odd questions. Okay. So price into consumption is sugar. Price increases by 20%, so plus 20%. The family decreases consumption by 25%, minus 25%. These are nothing but A percent, B percent. This should be A plus B plus AB by 100. So this will be plus 20 minus 25 minus 20 into 25 by 100. Okay. You can solve this question. You could have done the question by ratios also. Price has gone up by 20%, so means the price has become 6 by 5 times. Consumption has decreased by 25%, so consumption has become 3 by 4 times. So what should happen to the expenditure? It should become 18 by 20 times or 9 by 10 times or decline by 10%. So consumption is reduced by 10%. We did not solve this, but I'm sure if you solve this, you will get the same question again. Same answer. Plus 20. This is nothing but plus 20 minus 25 is minus 5. 20 to 25 is 500 by 100. So 5. Again minus 5. Minus 10%. Okay. So you have done it either way with the ratios or by the successive increment formula. Ratios is my personal favorite, and you'll find me doing more of ratio. The third method you could have said, let me assume that the price of sugar originally is 10 rupees. Let me assume that the original price of sugar is 10 rupees. And let me assume originally 10 kg was consumed. So the expenditure initially was 100 rupees. Now price of sugar has become 12 rupees because it has gone up by 20%. The consumption has decreased by 25%, so it has become 7.5 kg. So what is the total expenditure now? It is 12 into 7.5, so which is 12 into 7, 84, 90. So earlier the expenditure was 100, now the expenditure is 90, so it is a reduction of 10%. So you could have used any of these three methods to solve the question. You can go through the question again yourself because the same concept will be applied. And in question number 6, I applied this method. Okay, this method. So please do it again yourself. Okay, great. So got it. That's great. Okay, let's move on to the next one. A man's basic pay for a 40-hour week is question number 20. Basic pay for a 40-hour week is rupees 20. Overtime is paid at 25% of the basic pay on a certain week. He worked overtime and his total wage was 25 rupees. Therefore, he worked for how much? Okay. You could start taking the choices straight away actually. Okay. Or you could work other ways. Okay. So the key thing to remember is if the rate for normal time, normal rate is 1, the overtime rate will be 1.25. Okay. Or whatever he normally gets for 10 hours, now he will get for 8 hours. Okay. Or if that is not very clear, whatever he normally gets for 10 hours, now he will get for 10 upon 1.25, which is equal to 8 hours. Okay. Why 1 divided by 1.25? Earlier he was getting for 10 hours at a particular rate. Now the overtime rate has increased by 25%, so it has become 1.25 or 5 by 4 times. So if the rate has become 5 by 4 times, he will have to work 4 by 4 5 times. Or he will need to work 4 by 5 or 10 hours, which is equal to 8 hours. Okay. So this is what you need to remember. The rate becomes 5 by 4 times. The time for which he will need to work is 4 by 5. Okay. Again, this flows from my same stupid formula, which is rate into number of hours is equal to wage. Okay. So what has happened to the normal rate is 1, number of hours is whatever, he'll get a certain wage. If the rate becomes 5 by 4 times, the number of hours should become 4 by 5 times for the same amount. Okay, for the same amount. So this is what you can use again. So we'll quickly solve this question. Okay. A man's basic pay for 40 hours week is rupees 20. Overtime is paid 25% above the basic rate. He worked overtime and his wage was 25 rupees. Out of 25 rupees, 20 rupees is the normal time for which he worked for 40 hours. The balance 5 rupees. This is on account of overtime. In the normal time period, in the normal time, normal 10 hours would have given him 5 rupees. So how many overtime hours will give him 5 rupees? 10 into 4 by 5. Why 4 by 5? Because the rate has become 5 by 4 times. So the time consumed should become 4 by 5 times. 10 into 5 by 5 to the 10, which is 8 hours. So in overtime, he will get 8 hours. He will get 5 rupees for 8 hours. So the answer should be 48 hours. The other way, you could have straight away started checking the choices. Just to repeat, I know I will probably end up repeating, but please remember this is a very, very important relationship. A into B equal to C. This helps you solve a large number of questions in quant across areas. When we come to algebra, you will find me using this equation for algebra also. I use it across all areas of arithmetic, time, speed, distance, etc. Algebra, many places it can be used. So just be sure you are comfortable with this concept. Just to repeat, I can apply percentage change. If A changes by A%, B changes by B%, C will change by A plus B by plus AB by 100. Another way to do it is, let me assume original A to be 10, B to be 10. Original is 100. So if A goes up by, let's say, 20%, it becomes 12. B goes down by 10%, it becomes 9. The new value will become 12 into 9, 100 and, yeah. It will be 108, which is nothing but plus 8%. The third is ratios. If A increases by 10, 20%, that means it becomes 12 by 10 or 6 by 5 times. B reduces by 10%, that means it becomes 9 by 10 times. Or the final value should become 96 or 54 upon 50, 54 upon 50, or 108 upon 100 times, which is nothing but 8%. Which means if the original value was 100, final value has to be 108. Please be sure you're comfortable with it. It will help you a lot in the examination. Okay. Next question, question number 21. The sum of 3,500 is lent for 5 years at 5% per annum. The SIN above. Now, if you look at the question and the choices, 785, 875, 500, 875, 500. Two of them have 500, two of them have 875. What about here? 4375, 4375, 4375, 3675. First question, you typically start by checking out one of the two, not both. Let me just tell you what I mean by this. 3,500 is lent for 5 years at 5%. Simple interest. 5 years, 5% is nothing but 25%. That means every year you are getting 5%. Simple interest of 5% means for 5 years you will get 25% of the principal. So what should the simple interest be? Simple interest will be equal to 25% of 3500. 25% is nothing but 1/4 of 3500. Again, this should be done orally by you. Half of 3500 is 1750. Half of 1750 will be 875. So the simple interest is 875. Choice C, choice A, and choice E. Three of them are incorrect. And what should be the amount? Amount should be answer has to be D, because the 3500 is the principal plus 875. The answer will be approximately 4300. Choice B has to be incorrect. So the correct answer is B. Actually, we should have noticed this earlier, that when the principal is 3500, in 5 years it cannot become 3675. Or in other words, we should have actually noticed it and straight away eliminated choice B and D, that these two choices are not relevant. Why are they not relevant? 5 years, 5% principal 3500, my interest will be more than 175 rupees. These two choices cannot be correct. And then out of the remaining, we could have just found the simple interest, which is 25% of 3500. Okay. And that would have given the answer. Utkarsh, what part you want me to repeat? I'm not very clear. Are you looking at the calculation? How I calculate 25% or why is 25%? Okay, Utkarsh, previous question, Utkarsh, I'll go on to the next one. I will request you to do it. In any case, this video will be available to you in a couple of days in your SIS. Then you can watch it. Till then, I would want you to revise it, try to get yourself again. Okay, next question. CI for certain sum for 2 years at 2% per annum be 1010. What is the principal? Okay. So typically the way to solve this question, or the mathematical way of solving this question, is compound interest is amount minus principal. And in compounding, amount is equal to P into, in this case, N, or N is equal to 2. So typically we will write compound interest will be equal to, in this question, principal is what we need to find, P into 1 plus 2 by 100 raised to power 2 minus P, which is 1.02 square into P minus P. Okay. So the key thing is to calculate this particular number, 1.02 square. Okay. If you remember your Vedic math, you may be able to do it. If you remember your Vedic math, square of 102 should be equal to 0.4, 104, or 1.02 square should be 1.02 square should be 1.0404, or this is nothing but in 4.04%. But what will be easier for many of you is to remember, what is this actually? This is nothing but, when I'm writing 1.02 square, what am I doing? I'm doing 1.02 into 1.02. What are this? This is nothing but two successive increments of 2%. So what you need to remember is that compounding is equivalent to successive increments. Okay. This is what you need to remember, that compounding is the same as successive increment. Or in other words, 2 years 2% is nothing but 2 plus 2 plus 4 upon 100, which is nothing but 4.04%. Or two successive increments of 2% will give me 4.04%, or the amount of compound interest will be 4.04% of the principal. Okay. Okay. So just to repeat this part, because I think it is important for all of you to remember this particular relationship, that compounding is equivalent to successive increments. The question says 2 years 2% per annum. That means there will be a total interest. In the first year you will get 2% interest, second year 2% interest, or for the 2 years you will get A plus B plus AB by 100, which is 4.04%. Or in other words, compound interest is nothing but 4.04% of the principal. And as per the question, compound interest is 10 is equal to 4.04% of principal. Now, to me, this is the important part of this question, which means had the question not said 2 years and 2%, but had the question said 4 years and 5%. I would have said these are nothing but 4 successive increments of 5%. 2 successive increments of 5% are nothing but a single increment of 10.25%. Similarly, this will be 10.25. And these two combined will be again A plus B 10.5 plus 10.25 plus 10.25 is 21.5 plus 80 by 100. 10.25 into 10.25 is approximately 100. 100 by 100 1. So I'll say this is approximately 21.5%. So when you have a high amount of compounding required, yes, thank you, Nirmal. This is not 21.5, 20.5. Okay. So yes, I written correctly out here, but here I written it incorrectly. 20.5 plus 1, 21.5%. Okay. So please remember, compounding can easily be replaced by successive increments. So a stupid formula of A plus B plus AB by 100 will work here also. Okay. Just to close this question, here we are saying 2 years 2% is 4.04% of principal is equal to 1010. 1010. What is the principal? So again 4% is approximately 4% is principal. So multiply this with 25. So 100.1% should be equal to 2500 plus 250. So 25,000 plus 250. What am I doing? Okay, is equal to it will be equal to 25250. Okay, but we don't need 100.1%. We need 100%. So my answer should be less than 25250. So the answer should be 25,000. So 4.04% is equivalent to. Yeah, Vishwajit, I'll just come back to it. Vishwajit, I will just come back to it. Just complete the question. The key thing again, remember, I will always try to get it somewhere close to 100% and do an approximation, especially if the choices are not close. As you can see out here, the choices are not close. Okay. So Vishwajit, you wanted to know. Yeah, thank you. 101%, not 100.1%. Okay. So just to repeat very quickly for a couple of you who are still not clear about this thing, I'm starting by saying that 2 years 2%, this can be nothing but compounding is equivalent to successive increments. So when you say that you're getting compounding for 2 years at 2%, there's nothing but first year you get 2% interest, second year you get 2% plus interest on the interest. So this is nothing but compounding, or this is nothing but 1.02 into 1.02, which means each of these are increased by 2%. So 2 successive increments of 2% are nothing but 2 plus 2 plus 4 by 100, which is nothing but 4.04%. So as per the question, compound interest is nothing but 4.04% of principal. Okay. And this, as per the question, is nothing but 1010. That means if I multiply this with 25 to 400, and the 0.0.25 again is 1. So 101% of principal will be equal to 25,000 plus 250, so 25250. We don't need 101%, we need 100% of the principal. That means principal should be slightly lesser than 25250. Among the choices, this is the right option. Rajan is asking me if they were having a choice of 25050, would you have applied the approximation? Yes, I would still have applied, but many of you should not be applying. I would have applied because I have extensive practice, so maybe I will still get the answer right. Okay, the other thing which you could have done with this question is, you could have said, let me try to find out, at the end of the day, we need to find out 4.404% of correct answer, the correct choice should be equal to 1010. Check out which of these will give you this. So, for example, if it is 20,000, 4.04% of 20,000 would be equal to 4% of 20,000. Okay, to calculate 4%, 10% of 20,000 is 2,000. 1% is 200. So 4% will be 800. So out here I will say 4% is equal to 800. 0.4% is 80. 0.04% is 880. This is incorrect because we are looking for value of 1,010. So there is a choice called 25050. I would have probably gone to this method. Then I will take 25,000. So 4.04% of 25,000. Again, this is nothing but 4% of 25,000 is 1,000. If 4% is 1,000, 0.4% will be 100, and 0.04% will be 10, 1010, and the correct answer is 225,000. So you can go on the choice to the answer also if you want. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The question I have taken because while it's a very easy question, many times I find students getting confused with the language. Simple interest on 400 rupees for 8 months at 5 paisa per rupee. 5 paisa per rupee means 5 paisa is the interest for every 100 paisa, which is nothing but 5%. So 5 paisa per rupee is nothing but 5%. So this is 5% per month. This is 5, as per the question, the rate of interest is 5% per month. So in 8 months you will get 40% interest. So what you need to find is 40% of 400. The key thing out here is from your point of view, from an understanding, 5 paisa per rupee per month is nothing but 5% per month, or 5% per month into 8 months is 40% for the period. Okay. Okay, this question again you will, well I'm sure many of you know a formula which you can apply. My recommendation is that formula is also not the best thing to use out here. Find the difference between SI and PI on 700 at a rate of 10% for 3 years. Simple interest at 10% for 3 years. Simple interest will be equal to 30% of principal. So simple interest will be 10% every year. So for 3 years it will be 30%. I'll come back to question 27 in a couple of minutes. Obviously, I'm sorry, I will not be taking a question which I have not shortlisted. These questions, the other questions, either you have to take with your faculty and discuss, or I'll take them up in a separate session. Today's session, only specific questions which I have decided are important, which I think are important. So please don't ask me to do questions which I have not shortlisted today. Okay, coming back to the question. If the rate of interest is 10%, for 3 years in simple interest you will get 30%. So simple interest is 30% of principal. Compound interest 10% for 3 years is nothing but 3 successive increments of 10%. 2 successive increments of 10% is nothing but 21%. So 3 successive increments will be equivalent to 2 successive increments of 21 and 10. So 21 plus 10 is 31. 21 plus 10 plus AB upon 21 into 10 upon 100, which is equal to 33.1%. So simple interest is 30% of principal, compound interest is 33.1% of principal, or the difference between the two is CI minus SI is equal to 3.1% of principal. So what is the difference? It is equal to 3.1% of 700. Again, 10% of 700 is 70, 1% of 700 is 7. So 3% is 21. So 3% is equal to 21. purely from a calculation perspective, 3% is equal to 21 because 10% is equal of 700 will be 70. 1% of 700 will be 7. So 3% is 21. Again, 1% is 7. 0.1% will be 0.7. 0.7. So 3.1% will be equal to 21.7. So answer is C. Okay. So again, going back to this thing, compounding is nothing but successive increments. Wherever you have a compounding, you should be able to replace it with successive increments. Then this is the successive increment formula: A plus B plus AB by 100. It's all I'm using out here in case of compounding. Now just to okay. So 3 successive increments of 10%. You would have done it as 1.1 cube. If you remember, cube of 11 is equal to 1331, so 1.331. Or you could have done it this way: 2 successive increments of 10% are nothing but a single increment of 21%. 10 plus 10 plus 100 by 100, and then these two together will give you 21 plus 10 plus 21 into 10 by 100, which is equal to 33.1%. So either way you could have done this. Okay, then quite a large number of asking for repeating question 27. So let me quickly do this. Simple interest for 8 months. So time period is 8 months, it's not a problem. The rate of interest given is 5 paisa per rupee per month. First, let's look at what do we mean by this. 5 paisa per rupee, that means for every 1 rupee that you invest, you will get an interest of only 5 paisa. Or for every 100 paisa of investment, you will get 5 paisa, or this is nothing but 5%. 5 paisa is the interest for 100 paisa, which is 5%. So 5% per month is the rate of interest. So for 8 months, your rate of interest will be 5 into 8, which is equal to 40%. So what is the interest? Interest is 40% of 400, which is equal to 160. Okay. I hope this clears the concept. Okay. Okay, moving to exercise 3. Question number 3, exercise 3. I owe you rupees 1500 payable 4 years from now. What is the equivalent cash payment that I can make now? SI prevailing the 6.25% of 6.25% per annum. I owe you 1500 payable 4 years from now. So I have to pay 1500 rupees not today but 4 years from today. Sachi Shavya, how did 1.331 become 33.1%? Sachi, okay, let me quickly take that. 1.331 upon 1, it is increase of 0.331 upon 1, so it will be equal to 33.1%. Okay, coming back to this question. So how much should I pay you today? Because if I pay you some amount today, in the 4 years, you can earn interest, which will take you to 1500 rupees. So if I have to pay you today, I will not pay you 1500 rupees, I'll pay you something lesser. Okay. So in other words, the question is, what is the amount that I should put in bank today? If I put X rupees in bank today, in 4 years, it should become 1500 rupees at the rate of 6.25% per annum after 4 years. Okay. So what is the value of X? So now let's again look at it this way. The rate of interest is simple interest. It's a simple interest. Okay. And 4 years 6.25%. So since it is simple interest, in 4 years, you will get not 6.25 but 6.25 into 4, which is the 12.5, you will get 25%. I hope this is clear. It is 6.25% per annum for 4 years. And simple interest. Simple interest means in first year you get 6.25% interest. Second year you get again 6.25% of principal. So it is 6.25 into 4. So the total interest which you receive will be 6.25 into 4, which is 25%. So the total interest received is 25% of X. Okay. And this added to X should take you to 1500 rupees, or 1.25X should be equal to 1500. Okay. So the key thing out here was to understand that if you are paying today, the person whom you pay has the option of earning interest on that, hence you will pay lesser today, or the current principal plus the interest should add up to 1500 rupees in the given period. Okay. Another thing we could have looked at is interest is 25%. So if it was originally 100, it was 125, so it would become 1.25x. Or interest is equal to 25%. That implies the principal, if it is x, the amount will become 5 by 4x, or 5 by 4x is equal to 1500. Another thing you could have done was choice plus 25% of choice. Choice plus 25% of choice should be equal to 1500. Whichever choice does not satisfy is incorrect. Whichever choice does not satisfy this relationship is incorrect. For example, if I check for choice A, 1000 plus 25% of 1000 is 1250, incorrect. Okay, so 1000 plus 25% of choice 250 is coming out to be 1250, but we need a value of 1500, hence my answer should be greater than 1000. Or in other words, any choice which is less than 1000 should be incorrect, and this is the only remaining choice. Okay. I'll repeat this question because some students seem to be having problem with this. I have to pay you 4 years from now. I have to pay you not today but 4 years later. 4 years later, I have to pay you 1500 rupees. The rate of interest is 6.25% per annum, simple interest. Now, instead of paying you 1500 rupees, I can decide to put X rupees in bank today, such that X rupees will become 1500 rupees after 4 years. So the question effectively is, this is also known as the present value. What is the present value of 1500 rupees, which is payable 4 years down the line? Okay. So if I have to pay you 1500 rupees 4 years down the line, I can put X rupees in bank today. So I'll put X rupees in bank, plus on these X rupees I will get 25% interest. This total, if it adds up to 1500 rupees, this will give me the present value of 1500. Okay. Or in other words, the question is, how much amount should I put in bank today at 6.25% for 4 years, so that it will become 1500 rupees. Okay. So in a way, this is the principal, this is the amount, okay, and this is the interest. So principal plus interest has to be equal to the amount. Okay. Question number 6. A sum was put at simple interest at a certain rate for 2 years. Had it been put at 3% higher rate, it would have fixed 72 rupees more. Okay. What is the sum? Okay. So let's assume X rupees was put at simple interest. Okay. Had it been put at 3% but at a certain rate of interest, so let me assume K%. Okay. So if it is put at K%, what will be the interest for 2 years? K% 2 years. The interest would be 2K%. If it is put at K plus 3% for 2 years, It would have what? 2k plus 6%. Or the difference between these two is nothing but 6%. And as per the question, what is 6% of the principal or 6% of it? Okay. So the key thing to remember is, if the rate of interest increases by 3%, so every year you will get 3% extra. So in 2 years you will get 6% extra. 6% of X is the extra amount, and which is nothing but equal to 72. So such questions are best done by keeping the incremental change in mind. The amount or the principal moves or the interest, when it goes from when it increases by 3%, when the interest increases by 3%, every year you get 3% extra, or in 2 years you will get 6% extra. 6% of the principal is extra what you have got. As per the question, you have got 72 rupees more, so 6% of the principal should be equal to 72 rupees. So X is equal to 72 by 6 into 100. Alternately, again check the choices. 6% of which choice is equal to 100, is equal to 72. Okay. A man lends 10,000 in 4 parts, gets 8% on 2,000. So on 2,000 rupees, he's got 8% interest. 7.5% on 4,000. 8.5% on 1,400. What percentage must he get on remainder? So what is the remainder? 7,400, 2,600. He needs to get what percentage interest? If his average annual interest is 8.13%. So on the total amount, he is getting 8.13%. So the question is, what is this value? On this 2,600, how much interest should he get so that this is equal to 8.13%? Now, strictly speaking, this is a question of weighted average. And that is the way you should be doing this question. Okay. Which means, out of the total 10,000, 2 out of 10,000, the rate of interest is 8%. On 4 out of 10,000, the rate of interest is 7.5%. On 14, 1.4 out of 10,000, 1.4 upon or 14 out of 100, the rate of interest is 8.5%. And on 26 out of 100, the rate of interest is X. So that the overall value is equal to 8.13. Now this is the equation which you are expecting to solve. Yeah. So you got to make your life a little easier by making 20 by 100 and 40 by 100 also. Okay. Okay. So and get the answer. This is a straightforward question. A question of weighted average should be done by all of you, but be careful about the calculation. These are the kind of questions that we tend to make mistakes, and so be a little careful so that there are no errors out here. Okay. This is one way of looking at the question. But if you look at the numbers carefully, and if you are comfortable with percentages and numbers, then most of the time you will be able to get the answer on the basis of or without the calculation part itself. Let me just explain what I mean. Okay. Let me just delete this. Okay. Now, when we look at the percentages, we know that the average has to be 8.13%. Okay. Now, let's look at these two. Where do you think the average percentage will be of these two? Closer to 7.5 or closer to 8? Obviously, it will be closer to 7.5 because this is a rate of 4,000, this is 2,000. So actually, the weighted average of these will be 7.66%. So, yeah. Okay. So why? Because these are weights of 1:2, so it has got twice the weight, so 0.5, 1/3 of 0.5, 0.66, so it will be here. Or in other words, when I look at these three, the weighted average of these three will be less than 8%. Or in other words, this will be more than 8.13%, X has to be greater than 8.13%, but it cannot be, the answer cannot be 7 or 8.5%. Why? Because this is going to be slightly lesser than 8%. These three combined will be lesser than 8%. So this has to be greater than 8%. 8.13%, which is the average. So if the average is 8.13, this will be greater than 8.13 and will definitely go up to some extent. Okay. Just to explain this further, how much more than 8.13? Let us look at approximately what will this value be. But I'm saying with less than 0.8, look at this, this is 6,000 and this is 1,500. So this is about 1/5. So the cumulative average of this 7.6 and 8.5 with 6 and 1,400 is likely to be in the region of about 7.8 to 7. Approximately 7.8 actually. Okay. So this will be definitely, it is like saying this is 7.8 with a weight of 7,600 for a weight of 2,400, such that the overall is 8.13. So this is a gap of about 0.5. This should be greater than not 0.5 by about almost about double of that. So my answer will be either 9 or 9.25. It cannot be 10. Here these are two somewhat close choices, hence I cannot get the answer directly. But many times you will find that if you just apply this basic understanding, you will be able to find the answer without doing the calculation. The standard method of calculation has to be known by you. But let me just go through this second method again. This is likely to be a little confusing. Okay. Let me just go back to what I started off with. 8%, 2,000, it is 8%. Next 4,000, it is 7.5%. Next 1,400, it is 8.5%. Balance 2,600, we need to find the interest rate. What the overall interest rate for the entire 10,000 is 8.13%. Now when I'm looking at, let me look at these two only first. So for these 6,000, I am saying the average will be, these are weights of 1:2, 1:2. Okay. So the gap between the two, 7.5 to 8, which is 0.5, the gap of 0.5 will be divided by 3. So the average of these will be 7.5 plus 0.5 by 3, which is 0.166. But 0.5 by 3, so this will become 7.66. Okay. Let me look at these two now. Okay. What are these? These are effectively nothing but 6,000 and 1,400. From a calculation perspective, I am taking them as 1:4 approximately. So the gap between these two, 7.66 and 8.5, which is how much, 0.7 or 0.75 approximately. Let me say the gap is approximately 0.75. Divide this gap by 5. Why? Is because the weights are 4:1, 5. So 1/5. So 7.66 plus 0.75 by 5 will be equal to 7.66 plus 1.15, 7.71, say about 7.8. This is the way I said it is 7.8. Okay. So my starting point is this. I can only calculate and say this comes up to approximately 7.8%. Now my answer required here is 8.13%. Okay. So if this is 8.13, it is about 0.2 and 0.4 or 0.5 more. So this should definitely be greater by 0.5. So this should be greater than 8.13 plus 0.5, or it should be greater than 8.63. Most probably the answer is 9%, definitely not this or this. I may not be sure about which of these two. With some practice of numbers, you'll say this. If you don't have practice of numbers, you could get confused and you'll have to go to the other. Okay. But let me look at a slightly very different thing also to get the answer faster. Okay. So effectively, if you have been able to reach here, the job will become that effectively we have 7,400 have a 7.8% value, 2,600 has an 8% value. You can do the weighted average part again okay, if you want to. But if you can practice what I just showed, you will be able to get it faster. No, you cannot do it by successive method. This is not successive. This is weighted average. Okay. Why 0.5 by 3? Okay. For 0.5 by 3, we will have to go to the basics of allocation and weighted average, which I will avoid. Just I will tell. First thing is, just from your point of view, let me just take that again. 2,000 8% and 4,000 7.5%. The gap between the two of them is 0.5%. Okay. These are weights of 1:2. Or 1/3 is at 8%, 2/3 is at 7.5%. My answer will be closer to 7.5%. Okay. If you go to the theory of allocation, you will understand that why will this happen, but I am just skipping that part. So your weighted average of these two will be the 7.5 plus 0.5 upon 3. Okay. Why I am saying it out here? It is you take the opposite number out here. Okay. Need to practice it a little, but if you just remember that allocation looks at the inverse ratios, and then I will look at 0.5 by 3. The same thing I could have also obtained by saying it will be 8% minus the average has to be between 7.5 and 8. So 8% minus 0.5 into 2 by 3. Okay. So into 2 by 3. So this is what I have done out here. Okay, let's move on to the next question. If the difference between compound interest, compounded half yearly, and the simple interest on a sum at 10% per annum is 25, then what is the sum? Again, simple interest for the year will be 10% of principal. Simple interest is nothing but 10% of the principal. Compound interest is compounded half yearly. So when it is compounded half yearly, it is 6 months. You will get 5%. Next 6 months, you will again get 5 months, but you will get interest on interest. Compounding is nothing but successive increments. So these are nothing but two successive increments of 5%, which is A plus B plus AB by 100, or which is nothing but 10.25%. Okay. So compounding gives you 10% of the simple interest gives you 10% of principal. Compounding gives you 10.25% of principal. And what is the difference between the two? 0.25% of principal. So 0.25% of principal is the difference. The question says 0.25% of principal is equal to 25 rupees. So 1% of principal again into 4 is equal to 100 rupees. So 100% of principal will be equal to 100 into 100, 10,000 rupees. Okay. The key thing again here is to remember compounding is nothing but successive increment. How is CI 5%? It is 10% per annum compounded half yearly. Compounded half yearly, when it is half yearly compounding, the rate of interest becomes half, the time becomes double. So CI 10% per annum compounded half yearly means 2 successive increments of 5% for every 6 months. Next question, question number 10. A man borrowed 800 at 10% per annum simple interest and immediately lend the whole at 10% compound interest. Again, how much does he gain at the end of 2 years? Again, what will he pay? He will pay 20% of the principal. Okay. What will he earn? He will pay 10% for first year, 10% of second year, so 20%. And what will he earn? He will earn 10% per annum compounding annually. So it is nothing but 21%. 2 successive increments of 10% are nothing but a single increment of 21%. So he will earn 21% of the principal. He will pay 20% of the principal, and he will gain 1% of principal. Okay. Which is nothing but 1% of principal is 1% of 800 rupees, which is 8 rupees. So again I am repeating, compounding is nothing but successive increments. Wherever you have compounding, you can very comfortably use it and replace it with successive increments. Okay. Question number 11. A sum of money amounts to 4624 in 2 years. 4624 in 2 years. 4913 is 2 years at compound interest. What is the sum? So we need to find the principal. So after 2 years, okay. Let me say the principal is P. So P into 1 plus R by 100 raised to power 2 is equal to 4624. And P into 1 plus R by 100 raised to power 3 is equal to 4913. Okay. Now this question effectively you need to remember, at the end of 2 years you have got 4624. At the end of 3 years the amount is equal to 82 after 2 years, 83 after 3 years. So what is the difference between the two? The difference between the two is the interest which you have received. So if the principal is 54624, then the amount is 4913, or you have received an interest of the difference of the two, which is nothing but 289. So you have received an interest of 289 or 4624. This 4624 became 4913 at a certain rate of interest. What is the rate of interest? It will be 289 upon. So you have earned the interest of 289 on 4624. So the interest rate can be calculated. Okay. Now once you have the interest rate, you can also calculate the principal. Okay. That is in theory how the question has to be done. Okay. But when you look at the choices, the choices are somewhat close. 4096, 4260, 4360, 4210, 4335. Okay. Okay. And second, it will involve compounding. All you have to say principal is nothing but so even if you find this, if you find the rate of interest to be, let's say, okay, what is the rate of interest out here? Let's look at this. 229 upon 4624. 289 will be again 10% is 462. 1% is 46, 6% is 240 plus 36. 240, yeah. So this is approximately 6%. More than 6%, but 6% approximately we can take it from a calculation perspective. So you will then have to say 4624 is equal to P into 1.06 raised to power 2, and then find the value of P, and so this is not a very comfortable calculation. There is, however, an easier way which you can look at to solve this question. Okay. You can say approximately the interest which I have earned in the second to third year will be slightly more than the interest which I earned in the first year and again in the second year. Okay. So let me put it this way: the CI for the first year, second year, and third year. Third year we know it is nothing but 289. The difference between these two numbers. I can say for the first and second year also it will be approximately 289. It will be actually in both these years be less than 289, but I'm saying approximately it could be 289. Okay. So 290 into 3, 800. Okay. So about 820 is what I'm getting out here. Okay. So I can say approximately my principal should be 4913 minus 870 approximately. It should be slightly more than this actually. 11 minus 7, 4. So 4013. So my answer should be slightly more than 4013. The correct answer among the choices becomes 4096. Okay. Okay. So let me repeat this question. I know this is a slightly difficult question, so let me repeat this question again for you. In this question, the starting point for me is, if I have to solve it conventionally, I will need to find the rate of interest. At the end of 2 years, you have 4624. End of years, you have 4913. The difference between these two is 289. Or in other words, 289 is the interest received on 4624. So the rate of interest is nothing but 289 upon 4624 into 100, which I am saying I found to be approximately equal to 6%, could be actually 6.2%, but this is what I am saying. So the rate of interest is 6%. I know the second thing is amount after 2 years is 4624. So 4624 is nothing but principal into 1.06 raised to power 2. This is what you need to do to find the correct answer. But this is not going to be an easy calculation. So I chose to do something which is slightly different. Okay. I said year 1, year 2, year 3. If let me take the rate of interest to be equal to 10%. Okay. Let's take it to be 6% only. Okay. Okay. And let me take the principal to be 1,000 rupees. So so in first year I'll get interest of 60. Second year I'll get interest of 60 plus 6% of 60. Third year I will get 6% of 60, which is 60 out here. Third year I'll get again 60 plus the interest on the earlier interest. Now, which means the extra interest which you receive every year is only a very small fraction. It does not increase significantly in the initial years. So the gap between the interest received in year 1, year 2 and year 3 in compounding is not big. It is not a huge gap in the initial years, especially when the rate of interest is low. So all I am saying out here is, if in the year 3 I have a 289 interest, year 2 could be 279, year 1 could be 269 or something similar. But since I don't know what these numbers are, I am saying I know this is less than 289, this is also slightly less than 289, or the total interest which I receive has to be less than 807. 29 into 3 is 81, 807. Yeah, 807. So the total compound interest for the year has to be less than 807. So interest is less than 807. This implies principal should be greater than 4913 minus 807, which is nothing but 40 minus okay. 209381. Yeah. So about 800 if you remove, you'll get about 4,000 or 4,100 only. Okay. So I will say the answer has to be 4090. The best among the choices is this. Okay. Is this the best method of doing it? Given the choices, yes. If the choices are very close, then this is not a question which should be attempted at all. Okay. Okay. Moving to the next question. At what rate of compound interest per annum will 1200 become 1348.12 in 2 years? Okay. What is the interest out here if you look at it? The interest out here is 148. In other words, in this question, 148.32 is the interest which you receive on 1200 rupees, which is approximately equal to 12%. Okay. This is compounding, or in other words, two successive increments of which choice gives you slightly more than 12%. This is more than 12%, approximately equal, but more than 12%, because 148.32 upon 1200 is equal to 144 upon 1200 plus 4.32 upon 1200. This is nothing but 12%, and this is 10% of 1200 is 120. 1% is 12. This is about 0.33%. It's plus 0.35 or 0.33, approximately 12.35%. Correct answer should be 6%. So out here again, check the choice. I know that my overall interest for 2 years on compounding is slightly more than 12%. Which successive increments of the choice, successive increments of which choice will give me 12 point something percent? The only answer is 6. This will be more than choice A, 7 will give you 14.49. This will be more than 15%. This will be more than 13%. This will be about 11%. It's choice E. Correct choice is choice B. Okay, question number 17. Simple interest on a sum of money for 3 years is 360, and the compound interest on a sum of same money for 2 years is 270. What is the rate of interest per annum? Simple interest, year 1, year 2, year 3 will be the same. It will be 120 each year. Because simple interest is fixed every year. What about compound interest? In the first year, compound interest and simple interest are the same. The total compound interest for 2 years is 270. That means the compound interest which you receive in the second year will be 150. This total adds up to 270. Or in other words, when you are compounding, you are getting 120 simple interest, 120 as the interest in first year, 150 is the interest in second year. The gap between the two, 30 rupees. Or get 30 as the interest of 120. 30 is the interest on the interest, 120. Or hence your rate of interest should be 25%. Moving to the next question. A sum of 1550 was partly linked at 5% and 8% per annum simple interest. Total interest received after 3 years was 300. Ratio of money lent at 5% to 8% is how much? The standard way of doing this question is to assume that the amount lent at 5% is X. So this should be 15 minus X. Then you say X into 5 by 100, 5% of it, plus 8 by 100 into 15 minus X is equal to 300. This is the standard way of doing this question. Okay. To find this value. Not incorrect, but it is possibly a little lengthy. You could look at using allegation out here in this question. Okay. What we are doing is we are mixing 5% rate of interest with 8% rate of interest and getting an average interest which is 300 on 1550. Okay. But that is for 3 years. So we find the rate of interest, substitute here and do the allegation out here. Okay. But what you find out here when you calculate the rate of interest, 300 upon 1550. it is not a easy or it's not a straightforward number which is coming, it is making your calculation difficult. So in this question, what my advice would be, what is it you will earn at 5%? At 5%, 1550. If the entire amount was lent at 5%, what is the interest you would have received? 10% is 155. 5% is 10% is 155. If 5% is equal to 77.5. So you would have received 77.5 rupees per year. Okay. So at 5% rate of interest, you would have received 77.5 rupees per year. At 8% rate of interest, you would have received again 10% is 15.155. 1% is equal to 15.5. Okay. So 8% will be equal to, then let's calculate. 1% is 15.5, 2% is 31, 4% will be 62, and 8% will be 124. So you have received 124 rupees per year at 8%. So when you make interest of 77.5, which was the one at 5%, with an interest of 124, which is the interest at 8%, you get an average interest of 300 over 3 years or 100 over each year. So this is 24 and 22.5. So the ratio of quantity is 24 is to 22.5, or which is nothing but 240 is to 225. 240 to 225 will be nothing but 15, yeah, 15 is 225, 15 into 60. So that means the ratio of amounts at 5% and to 8% is nothing but 16 is to 15. So the ratio of 5% to 8% is 16 is to 15. Okay. Question of allegation should be done by allegation. Other methods are not incorrect, but they will be lengthy and time consuming. Since the percentages are not easy, between 300 by 1550 was not an easy percentage, so instead of working on percentage, we worked on the amount of interest. So look at the amount of interest per year and take it forward from there. Yeah, I'll just repeat it. I know this can be occasionally a little confusing, but if the entire amount was lent at 5% per annum, then you would have earned 77.5 rupees. How do I calculate 77.5 rupees? 10% is equal to 15.155. 5% is equal to half of that, 77.5. So you would have earned 77.5 per year. If the entire amount was lent at 8% per annum, you would have earned 124 rupees. Again, the same thing I have done. 1% is equal to 15.5. 2% will be 31. 4% will be double of that, 62. 8% double of that, 124. So in a way, when you mix interest of 77.5 with interest of 124, the average interest which you receive is 300 over 3 years or 100 per year. Or there is nothing but, if you want to remove the zeros, is 240 is to 225. Or which is nothing but 16 is to 15. Now this was at 5%, this was at 8%. That means the ratio of amounts at 5% to 8% are 16 is to 15. If the question was what was the amount lent at 5%, the amount lent at 5% will be 16, which is this number, divided by 31, which is nothing but 16 plus 15 into 1550. This is the amount at 5%. If the question was amount at 8%, it would have been 15 by 31 into 1550. So make sure you understand the concept of allegation. So allegation is one of the few things which I'll keep repeating, and let me just go back here. So the first important concept that I have kept on harping upon is successive increments. Successive increments in the form of A into B equal to C. Here we can use the ratios also. Or we can say 10 into 10 equal to 100 and then make the corresponding changes. Second thing, I have said is successive, or rather let me say Second thing I am saying, successive increments is also compounding. Okay. Second thing which I am saying is allegation. Allegation is something that I will keep using regularly. Again, I will use it across areas. You will find it can be used in algebra, it can be used in time speed distance. Here we use allegation in this concept of percentages. After all, wherever we mix two things, we can get allegation. We are mixing. So you are mixing a 5% rate of interest with an 8% rate of interest to get some average rate of interest. The ratio of quantities can be determined. Great. So let's move on to the next question now. A man invested, question 21. A man invested 1/3 of his capital at 7%, 1/4 at 8%, and the remainder at 10% simple interest respectively. If his annual income from the interest earned is 561, what is the capital? Again, question of weighted average. 1/3 of, so what is the average percentage? Let's find that first. 1/3 of the capital, on 1/3 of the capital he's getting 7%. On 1/4 of the capital he's getting 8%. What is the remainder? 1/3 plus 1/4 is equal to 12. So 4 plus 3 is 7. Yeah, 7/12. So the remainder is 1 minus 7/12, which is equal to 5/12. So on the remainder 5/12, he gets 10%. So what is the average rate of interest? Effectively, this is what the question is all about. So to make your life easier, we can even forget the percentage. Forget the percentage part. And make the denominator equal to 12 to for everyone. So this is on 4/12 of 7 plus 3/12 of 8 plus 5/12 of 10, which is nothing but 28 plus 24 is 42, 52. 52 plus 100 makes it 52 plus 50 makes it 102. So it is the average rate of interest is this much, 102/100. And then you can find the rate of interest and get the answer from there. If it is annual income from interest, then what is the capital? Okay. So the rate of interest is what we have found. Or in other words, this is nothing but 12, 8 to 96, 8.5%. So the rate also 8.5% of principal is equal to 561. Okay, if you remember 1/12, 1/12 is 8.33%. Okay. So you can say this is into 12%, or in other words, it will just create some space here. We have some space here. 8.5% of principal is equal to 561, or multiply this with 12. 102% of principal will be 561 into 12. 500 into 12 is 6,000. 600 into 12, 60 into 12 is 720 and 12. So 6732. So 102% is 6732. Your answer should be slightly lesser than that. 6600 should be the answer. Alternatively, you can check out 8.5% of which choice is equal to 561. That should be the answer. Okay. 218, question 22. 2189 is divided into 3 parts and invested such that the amounts after 1, 2 and 3 years respectively are equal. Rate of simple interest is 4% per annum in all cases. Find the smallest part. Okay. But we need to find the smallest part. So let us assume the smallest part is equal to, okay, x. Let's take the 3 parts to be x, y, and z. So I can start by saying 1.0 3 parts Find the smallest part. So let's say assume the three parts are x, y, and z. Okay. Let the smallest part be x. This should be the middle part, and this should be the biggest part. So if all three of them are increased, and such that the amount of the 1, 2, and 3 years are equal. So obviously the smallest part will have to be increased for 3 years, while the biggest part will be it only for 1 year. So I can say 1.12 into x, or 12% increase of the smallest part, should be equal to 1.08 y equal to 1.04 z. This is what the question is saying. Find the smallest part. The three numbers are 21. The sum of the three numbers are 2189. So x plus y plus z is equal to 2189. So the first thing which I want you to understand is that the smallest, if all three of them were equal, if x was equal to y equal to z, if x is equal to y equal to z, then each of them will be equal to 2189 upon 3, which is 703. Oh, sorry, not 703, 720, 790 by 3, 720, approximately 730. Okay. So if all of them were equal, they will be approximately 730, or each one of them will be 2189 by 3. Okay. So in a way, I can say the smallest part has to be lesser than, the smallest part x has to be lesser than 730. Choice C is incorrect. If all three of them x, y, z were equal, then each one of them will be nothing but 2189 by 3, which is approximately 730. So if each one of them were equal, it would be 730. But in this case, the three of them are not equal. So the smallest part should be less than 730, and the biggest part should definitely be greater than 730. So in other words, the smallest part, the answer cannot be 756. Choice C is incorrect. Okay. Now let's proceed further with this question. Okay. Now, the way out here would be to convert everything. We know that x plus y plus z is equal to 2189. Okay. So I would like to convert everything in terms of x, because that is the smallest part. So let me just, I think I need to clean this place. So we know that 1.12x equal to 1.08y equal to 1.04z. Okay. So if I look at just these two, I can say y is equal to 1.12 upon 1.08x. Similarly, I can say z is equal to 1.12 x upon 1.04. Okay. And this you should substitute in x plus y plus z equal to 2189. Now this, I can assure you, is not an easy calculation. So an easier thing could be, I could say there is nothing but approximately 1.04 x. Similarly, there is nothing but 1.08 x. I am just taking the approximate value out here. So in other words, I can say x plus 1.04x plus 1.08x is equal to 2189. So 1 to 3.12x is equal to 2189. So x should be equal to 2189 upon 3.12. Approximately what value do you get for x out here? So approximately you will get this as, let's say, around 700. Okay. Among the choices, very low, very low, very low. Choice key in any case was incorrect. Correct answer 703. Okay. So the key thing out here was the approximation which I did out here. Okay. Just to make your make the understanding easier again, if you look at the numbers, we said I approximated 1.12 upon 1.04 to be equal to 1.08, and I will approximately 1.12 upon 1.08 to be equal to 1.04. Now this is the approximation which helps me solve the question. Otherwise, the simple question x plus y plus z is equal to 2189. Okay. Okay. And we are saying this is z equal to this, y equal to this. So this is the equation somehow. Okay, approximation नहीं समझ आया. Equation कहाँ से? Equation तो यार, okay, let me quickly go through it again. The first thing is the three parts are x, y, and z. So x plus y plus z has to be 2189. This is given in the question. I am saying let x be the smallest part. This is the smallest. This is the biggest. Okay. Now the question says that they are invested in such that the amounts after 1, 2, and 3 years are equal. So the smallest part increased by 3 years by 4% is nothing but any year you get 4%, so in 3 years you get 12%, or it will become 1.128. So it will become 1.128. The middle part after 2 years will be 1.086, and the biggest part after 1 year will be 1.04z. Okay. Now look at these two equations, x, y, z. Y is nothing but 1.12 upon 1.088, and similarly z is nothing but 1.12 x upon 1.04, which is nothing but 112 upon 108. Now you have to approximate it, and similarly this is equal to 112 upon 104. So you have to substitute these values as x plus 112 upon 108x plus 112 upon 104x is equal to 2189. So this is the equation which you have to solve now. Now, obviously, if you look at the exact values of this will be a very difficult calculation. Why? Because this is effectively nothing but 25, 27, 28. This is 28 by 27, okay? And this is equal to 28 by 26, or which is nothing but 14 by 39. You will have a difficult time calculating this. So the suggestion is, why don't you approximate? Even if you have to do this, what is 14 by 13 equal to? 1 by 13 is 7.7%, to 14 by 13 is 107.7%. So effectively, this is nothing but 1.077. Okay. So approximating it to 1.08 is not a bad option. So here I just took a very simple process for myself. I said I am approximating this as 1 point. Let me just change the color of the pen. I am approximating y as, or rather I am approximating this particular this is nothing but 1.04, and this is similarly nothing but 1.08. Substitute, get the answer. Okay. Next question. Simple interest on a sum of money for 3 years at 5% per annum is 1200. What will be the compound interest for the same period for the same rate? Okay. Simple interest at 5% for 3 years will be equal to 15% of principal. Compound interest at 5% for 3 years is 3 successive increments of 5%. 2 successive increments of 5% are equal to a single increment of 10.25%. 10.25 and 5% will be 10.25 plus 5 plus. So how much does this become? 10 plus 5, 15.25 plus 10.25 into 5 is 51.25. 51.25. So this will become 0.51. So 15, this will be and 15.76%. Okay. So on compounding, you will get 15.76%. So this is nothing but 15.76% simple interest. Or in other words, on simple interest, you are getting 1200 rupees. 15% is equal to 1200 rupees. The question effectively is 15% is 1200 rupees. How much is 15.76%? You need to find the value of 15.76%. Okay. Again, you can, let me just clean up the board. Okay. So we have to find the value of 15.76%. We know that 15% is equal to 1,200. 15% is 1,200. So 7.5% will be 120, and 0.75% will be equal to 12. So we know that 15% is equal to 1,200. Oh, stupid of me. And I'm surprised no one has even bothered to point out. Yeah. Yes, now I am getting these. Yes, 15% is 7, so 7.5% should be 600, and 0.75% should be 60. So 15% here, 0.75% is equal to 60, and we need a 0.01% also. 0.01% also. 0.01% should be okay. Again, look at this. 15% is 1200. This implies 10% should be 2/3 of this. So 24 by 3, about 80. 800. 10%. So 15% is 1200. So 10% should be 800. 15 2/3. So this also should become 2/3. So 0.01% should be approximately 0.8. So 0.01% is equal to 0.8. So it becomes 1260.8. Correct answer is 1261. In this question, the calculation was the key. Look at the choices. You have a 1260, you have a 1261, you have a 1264, you have a 1254. Small error in calculation, you could mark the answer as 1260 or 1261. So be careful that the choices are close, and these are fairly close choices. You are unlikely to get choices just closer than this. Okay. So make sure you get into the habit of looking at the choices along with the question. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay. A dealer professes to sell his goods at cost price using 900 grams per kg. What is his gain percentage? Okay. What this means effectively that he will give you 900 grams. He will give 900 grams, but get paid for 1000 grams. Okay. So will he give you 900 grams, but he'll get paid for 1000 grams. So he's getting paid for 100 grams extra. 100 grams extra. So what is he doing? He's gaining 100 grams, or in other words, he's gaining 100 grams for every 900 grams. So his profit percentage becomes 100 upon 900, which is equal to 1 by 9, which is equal to 11.11%. That's answer choice G. Now let me take the reverse. Okay, so this question says he uses 900. Let's take each of them. Uses 900 grams for a kg. We said he is getting 100 grams. He is getting paid, or he is gaining 100 grams. The cost of 100 grams for every 900 grams. So it is a question of profit of plus 11.11%. 1 by 9. Supposing he uses 1100 grams for a kg. What will happen now is he will get paid for only 1000 grams of kg, but he will give us 1100 grams worth of material. Okay. So if he's selling at cost price, he is losing 100 grams for every 1000 grams, or it is a case of loss of 10%. Okay. So just be careful about this, and this is assuming he is selling goods as a cost price. So supposing the question said, supposing, let me just change the question again. Supposing the question said, a dealer, okay, let me say, uses 900 grams for a kg and has a markup of 20%. Okay. Then what is his profit percentage? Again, let's look at this way. Okay. In this case, he uses 900 grams for a kg. Okay. So when, let me assume he purchased 1000 grams worth of material. He got 1000 grams, and these 1000 grams, he put a markup of 20%, so he will get paid for 1200 grams. But instead of 1000 grams, the 1000 grams which he got, he will give the customer only 900 grams. So the customer will get only 900 grams, while the shopkeeper will get paid for, or in the world, the shopkeeper will gain 300 grams on every 900 grams, or it is a profit of 33.3%. This could also have been done as two successive profits of increments of 20% on account of markup and 11.11% on account of quality weight. So this could also have been done as successive increments, or it could have been done in this manner. My recommendation is to go by this. It is easier to understand. He got 1000 grams worth of material. He increased the markup. There's a markup of 20%, so he put a sale, increased the cost price by 20%, so it became 1200 grams. Now instead of giving 1000 grams to the shopkeeper, to the customer, he's giving only 900 grams. So for every 900 grams which he comes away, he's saving 300 grams to himself, or his profit is 300 or 900 or 33.50%. Okay, I think we'll stop here. The 3 exercises done, so that still leaves us exercise 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 4 exercises left. 8:39 we started. Okay. Would you like to continue? It depends on all of you. If you would like to continue, put a yes. If you would not like to continue, put a no. I don't have any problems in continuing. So just put a yes or no based on your responses. I will decide. Okay, I'm getting more yeses than no at this point of time. Now the no's have become very excessive. Okay, so we'll stop now. I will schedule another session most probably on Monday evening. Okay, on Monday evening we'll do the next 4 exercises, which is exercise 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and so Monday evening, tentatively, but you'll get a message on in your SIS on Monday, by tomorrow as to when we are scheduling, most probably Monday evening, 8:30 p.m. And this time, hopefully, my computer will not create problems and we will not lose half an hour unnecessarily. Okay. My request to all of you would be, please go through all the questions which we have done, just to give you the basic concept. We have looked at successive increments, we have looked at allegation in percentages, and we have looked at quality weight. We have just briefly looked at quality weight. Okay. And subsequent session we look at improving upon all these areas. Yes, Danish, we will be doing similar sessions for all the funda books. So the percentage SICI, next we will do ratio, then we will do DI, we will do time distance, we will do number system, algebra, geometry, verbal. Each of the funda books, MCQs, we will be doing all of them. Okay. And so let's see how it works out. And my request to all of you would be, for these sessions, please restrict yourself to the questions. Yes, Aditi will be doing for English also. My request to all of you is that each of these sessions, we have selected a few questions we think are important. Let's focus on these questions because they will explain a particular concept to you, or they will give you a calculation method, or give you a way of working with the choices. Okay? And that is what we keep doing. So every week we have 1 to 2 sessions. The week we have CAT analysis, we'll probably not have 2 sessions, we'll have 1 session, but every other week we'll have definitely 2 sessions. Yes, Ankit will have geometry also. So all the Fundabooks will be covered. Next session is going to be the balance 4 exercise of this. So the way it seems to be, we'll be able to do each book in something like 2 sessions. So we'll try to complete the number of sessions as we go along. Thank you very much for your patience, and sorry for the delay because of the problem which I had at the beginning due to my computer. Next session we'll start, as I said, with practice exercise 4. The video of this session should be available to you most probably by Monday, latest by Tuesday. Okay. Can I request the host at CLHO to log out of the event? I am logging out. Thank you very much.